Hello, hello. This is Fake the Nation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we consider jade eggs in our privates, among other goop fare. I'm your host, Negin Farsad, and that's right, we're talking about the enduring allure of Gwyneth Paltrow today. We'll also look at the current makeup of Hollywood with a new theory that it is now hot, horny, and white again. We meet the magical Trump-Mamdani voter. And we look at Donny Jr.'s social takeover in D.C. And finally, we ask, are men struggling to find love? Oh, the panel today. Folks, what a sparkling panel we have for you. Joining us for the manyth time, you know her, you love her. She's a visual artist and a filmmaker. All of her work is at DanielleDurchslag.com. And it is thusly titled because she is the incredible Danielle Durchslag. Hey, Danielle.
Hey, Negin. Thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to have you here. And also, I feel like listeners should know that the two of us went to what they call basketball game.
It's one of the great accomplishments of my 40s.
Yes,
I feel that I got you in that building.
Danielle, she didn't drag me kicking and screaming. I was very happy to go. I did ask, however, I think I warned her as saying, I'm not sure if I'll do it right. Like if I'll be right at all in a stadium watching basketball. So,
right, which I found to be a really unusual take on the experience. But you did great.
Thank you so much. And I got an A for the work that I did in that stadium.
And let's agree, that's the point. Let's agree.
We are also joined today by, oh my God, so excited to have her on the podcast for the first time. She's a data scientist because Fake the Nation is classing up, motherfuckers. She also has a podcast out called Behind the Data. She is the wonderful Andrea Jones-Rooy. Hey, Andrea.
Hi there. I'm so excited to be here, and this is the first time anyone has ever accused me of classing up anything, so I appreciate that you think that's what's about to happen. I also want to say, I recently went to a basketball game for, not the first time, but the first time in like decades. Were we at the same game?
Were you watching the Liberty in
Yes.
Brooklyn?
Yes.
Was it Sunday?
No, it was last Monday.
Still counts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, we were at the same game. We were at the same
basically.
game.
It was a very fun, positive experience, I thought.
Oh, it's
I don't know if you
incredible.
felt that way, but that was
And that's what I was warned. I was warned you're going to feel good. You're going to feel community. You're going to feel like
it's very unusual.
Sexually
I don't feel that.
towards a mascot.
I have a stuffed Ellie that I got for my dogs, and they tear every toy to pieces, but this one has managed to stay pristine, and I think they also are sexually attracted to this.
Oh, she exudes a power.
Yeah,
absolutely.
she really does.
Yeah.
So for people out there who haven't discovered the WNBA, which I just discovered, I highly recommend it. It's a really good time in the way of like keeping the feeling of America alive in your soul.
Truly.
I feel like basketball games. Who knew? Who knew? All right. Well, folks, as always, you can support the show at patreon.com/Negin Farsad. And for as little as $4 a month, you get bonus episodes of the show, which is more of the conversations that you already know and love, and more of them to get you through these challenging times. So go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad. And thank you so much to everyone who's already doing that. And now let's get into topic number 1. A new unauthorized biography of Gwyneth Paltrow just came out, and oh my God, apparently it's a real page-turner. But the question that comes up for a lot of us is, why Gwyneth Paltrow? Like, why is Goop such a cultural touchstone? Among the stuff she promotes on that website is, for example, a $27 psychic vampire repellent, a $120 biofrequency healing sticker pack. And I guess in the words of an op-ed writer for the Times, why do we believe her? That is the question I'd like to start with.
Well, I want to start by saying I don't believe her.
Thank you.
I feel that's an important data point here.
Yes.
You know, I've never been drawn into the goopness of it all. It's never called my name, but when I was reading this article, and by the way, I'm amazed on a weekly basis at how often this woman's name appears on my phone. As someone who doesn't follow her, right? Yeah. I mean, her imprint is real. You know, reading the article, I was weirdly struck by how Trumpy it all sounded to me.
Yes, I wrote that down in my notes.
Did you? Okay, so like here's a human who is propagating falsehoods unapologetically, right? Who has no responsibility when she gets it wrong, even though people's health, can be negatively impacted, who is unabashedly, unashamedly about privilege, and who seems impervious to public shaming. That's not a bad encapsulation of Trump.
She doesn't take anything back. Like when she gets roiled up in controversy over like getting sued over, I think she was sued over the jade eggs, and she settled out of court and settled out of court, but like did not say that anything was bad.
Admitted no wrongdoing.
No wrongdoing.
Kind of water on the duck's back. Trumpian, as you said.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
wild.
As I was reading this, because I've always been a little flummoxed, frankly, by her power and ascendance. And as I was reading it, I thought, one way to view this potentially is she's kind of like that canary in a coal mine. She was sort of an early version of this public persona that the country has really come to embrace. It's white, it's privileged, it's unapologetically so. It never is on the defense. It's always on the offense. And it didn't make me more of a fan of her, frankly, but it did give me a better framing for potentially maybe understanding why she seems so important.
Well, it's also interesting because she's refined in her appearance and tastes, and
True.
There's something about her that's also like aspirational in a way that like Trump's literal appearance and manner of speaking is not quite aspirational for so many. Like it just feels kind of like whatever, like brutish. And she is not. So she's able to. I mean, it's as if she's an actor. I mean, she's able to, like embody this character that you feel like, what would it be like to be her? And as you're feeling that way, you're also like, but jade eggs? You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's like such a complicated set of feelings. Andrea, what did you make? What do you make of it?
So I do feel somewhat heartened. So I'm very conflicted on Gwyneth Paltrow because I also don't believe a thing that she says. And I think that, particularly as a scientist, I think that she peddles a lot of nonsense and pseudoscience. That's not only dangerous in terms of the horrible products that she's pushing, but in general, as both of you said, on the canary is the coal mine kind of ushering in this openness to, well, what if I put a crystal in my vagina? Maybe that wouldn't hurt, I think it's very toxic. And at the same time, maybe this is just my, I was going to say inner, but all around white woman speaking, I am drawn to her in kind of the way that you're describing. There's an aspirational or like lifestyle aspect to it. And like I'm going to get fired from any scientific position I've ever had because I have willingly typed in goop.com into my browser to be like, what are we working on? And I could use a simple summer staple tunic.
Exactly.
Like a beachy hat, why not, right?
Is it an enjoyable process, Andrea? Like, were you into it?
I'm sorry to say, it's a very enjoyable process. It's very like elder millennial minimalist kind of like it's like a white background and just a few sparkly things. I've never bought any.
Well, have you been to
products.
any of the stores?
I have. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a store that's like not too far from where I live, and I walk in and just to be like, how do the other half live?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I feel dirty just stepping in there. Like I'm dirty compared to the store, but also my spirit becomes dirty
because of the store.
But also the like price range of things feels so obscene that like you're just sort of like, I'm literally, it's like I'm just walking into a museum. Like I'm not. This is not like
for
me.
Even
in
the
any
simple
way.
stuff, like she'll have like a hypothetically that I recently saw on her website, like a green and white striped kind of 3/4 length shirt that you could get at Target for like $12. It was like $375, and you're just like, okay. Like I just thinking about spending that kind of money on a shirt that I would wear 3 times is like a little bit voyeuristic, maybe in its way.
Sure.
But so for all the nonsense, I guess part of what I'm so conflicted is because I normally, anyone who rolls out with this kind of like pseudoscience stuff, I immediately dismiss and hate, and they are the enemy. And she somehow has weaseled her way into my psyche where I'm like, well, let's just see what she has to say. But even if I disagree, because there's something deeply, viscerally pleasant about it all that maybe makes it so dangerous.
Almost like a character in Succession.
Yeah,
Yes.
good
right?
call.
Where you're like, oh, I just long to have your things.
Yeah.
But
like you're
also
clearly
not
equal.
sure.
But
Right.
I could have my own private jet, and wouldn't that be nice?
Right.
Well, but there's another Trump corollary here I'm realizing as we're chatting, which is that, the country sort of met Trump on television. So I think that sense of like having a tether to him, the feeling of having a relationship to him predated his political aspirations.
Yeah.
Not dissimilarly, like I met this lady in Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
and
And
she
by
was,
the way, she's an excellent actor.
she
Right.
really is. She
Right.
really is.
Sort of a blank slate of a personality, but a great actor.
That's often the case, right?
Yeah,
And so, like,
yeah.
if you're entering Goop, you're not entering from zero. You're
Right.
entering through this portal of already feeling a connection or a sense of
Right.
fandom for this person, and both of them have benefited enormously from that.
And the United States, I mean, American culture is celebrity worship through and through, and so millennials will flock to Gwyneth, and the many people in the middle of the country will flock to Trump, right?
Right.
Not
And also,
exclusively.
like, jumping on the sort of influencer bandwagon as she did, I think one of the things that should be said about her is she's got a really excellent eye for marketing. I mean,
Oh, no question.
she, the way she came out with Goop, the way she immediately started the direct relationship between her products and the people that would buy them. The way, she had a travel app called G-Spotting, and thusly titled because she knew it would be a part of the cultural conversation. People would be like, oh my God, what the fuck kind of name is this for an app? Ha, 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 ha. Oh my God. And then that turns into what? More downloads, more hits, more downloads, more hits. And she kind of knows that. So there's something about her that's also just like really smart.
Oh, the savviness is undeniable.
That's
One of
right.
the things in the piece that really struck me was she, in a very early way, certainly way sooner than most of us, understood that ridicule is clicks.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Right? So she doesn't mind ridicule. In fact, she sometimes strategically operates toward ridicule.
Right.
That's internet culture. So
Right.
you can't deny the savviness, the natural kind of almost like shark-like instincts of this human.
Right. And jumping on the astronomy, the Kiss Cam fiasco.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The
The last
jumped
thing
on that bandwagon to do a commercial for Astronomer. I mean, felt like marketing genius.
Totally.
Yeah. No, the minute I saw that came out, I was like, man, this woman is, unlike Trump, I think she is playing 4-dimensional
Yeah,
chess in
agreed.
this particular area. I think.
Yes.
I mean, maybe
Agreed.
put her in charge of national security. She seems to have some kind of strategic thinking.
Well, at the very least, we won't have to worry about vampires anymore, and that's exciting.
Yeah. And think of, the halls of the Department of Defense could be very minimalist with kind of a tasteful fern or two. I think that'd
Oh,
be nice.
yeah.
Love it. The
Interior
toilets go from
decor-wise.
like gold to like a painted concrete.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like a mauve. The word mauve gets
Mauve.
involved.
The word mauve will be involved, yes.
Well, let's look at another aspect of culture this week. I made the mistake of watching the first episode of Hunting Wives. It's about a bunch of white ladies in Texas, and maybe there's a murder, and maybe some of them are gay. And anyways,
Wow.
it's very tits forward, steamy, and murdery. And according to some culture experts like Sharon Waxman, it illustrates the new direction in Hollywood, which is that Hollywood is now hot, horny, and white again. Now, just on the face of it, what do you guys make of that label?
I mean, I think it's about time that Hollywood got white again, I mean, we got a little black and brown for maybe a few months, and I think you had your turn.
We got it. Yeah. That's enough. All right.
Basta.
I will say as a white person, though, who is neither hot nor horny, I do feel still left out, so we'll have to get the different brand of whites going forward. But other than that, it does seem like it was a cute nod towards non-white people for a half a second, and I guess that's over now.
I know, because it feels like Oscar So White was so a million years ago.
Millions of
Like a
years ago.
different reality ago.
Right.
Completely.
Was it before COVID? Was it during COVID?
Ooh.
Oh, I literally don't.
There's no way to know.
I know.
There's no way to know.
And that's
Time has
listeners.
collapsed.
Sorry, we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
no idea.
Truly no idea. I mean, the word again seemed funny here to me. White again. In my experience, it's really stayed white just about the whole time, with a few exceptions. One of the things that we read that really resonated with me is like, it's always been run predominantly, and by predominantly we probably mean 80 to 95%, by white men. So at the end of the day, they're going to make some gestures toward diversity if and when that's popular, as it was recently, no longer sadly. But when that starts to wane, these are self-interested businessmen. They know how their bread is buttered. It doesn't take much of a shift, and we've had a dramatic shift, but it wouldn't even take that much for them to go back into their Caucasian heterosexual hole, right? So it's not shocking. The article was saying that, the job of Hollywood is to give the audience what it wants, not what Hollywood thinks it wants. But Hollywood doesn't know a lot of the time.
Endogenous, meaning that what we want influences Hollywood, and what Hollywood gives us influences what we want. It's not like they're like, oh, it's a one-way thing with no feedback.
Precisely. So is this a reflection of the rightward turn of the culture, or is this Hollywood, hoping that rightward turn has some content for it that will mean more eyeballs and more money? That's not totally clear. But I kept thinking about people like Quinta Bronson, these great storytellers who have recently come to the fore. It's really depressing to think that there are going to be fewer slots for folks like that. It's just a bummer.
Yeah, and can I just let you guys know what it's felt like from the Hollywood end of things?
Yes, of course.
It's funny. This article is almost like 2 years too late from my experience, because after the kind of height of the pandemic, when things started to open up again, I was starting to write new scripts or whatever, and showing them around to friends and getting notes and whatnot. And, in one of my scripts, I had a friend say, I like how you really underemphasize that, one of the characters is Iranian American. Oh. And I very specifically, and this would already be 2023, I fully underemphasized that what the race of any of the characters was. It was just they could happen to be a brown person, because I already sensed that I had to,
if that was more of their identity in this,
it would be too much. And I was told by straight up a studio that we don't want to have shows about people's identity anymore. And I was just like, well, that's great. I'm not trying to write a show about people's identity. I'm trying to write a family show or whatever it was that I was trying to write. And so, but I think if you do too much where you're like, this is a family of, Bangladeshi immigrants, that, they're like, no. So you have to kind of very subtly include those things. I think, or it's dead in the water. Okay, that was my experience from the words of a studio executive's mouth, and then also from just the general vibe I'm getting from other writers and stuff in the business. The other thing that happened is the entire business incredibly contracted, right?
Right.
And so there's just fewer jobs and it's interesting because it's contracted, but instead of it contracting to just okay, now let's just contract, but then it still be very diverse, it's contracted to just cut out what feels cut out the kind of brown and black people that had been let in a little tiny bit. By the way, I want to say it was always super, super, super competitive. I don't feel that in that time of Oscars So White, I don't feel that me as a writer, director, comedian, I got any benefit from it personally. I didn't, right? But I would say that there were some, you could see a little a little loosening of the reins. And a lot of those people are the, last ones in, first ones out. Those are the people that now can't get jobs because of the constriction in Hollywood. So I would say it fucking sucks. But
it sure does.
One thing that I will say is nice, if I have to find one nice thing, I do think that sex is nice. I do. I do. I don't mind. I want to see steamy fucking sex scenes and whatever. I don't mind. You know what I mean? I don't mind seeing the fucking gentle outline of a fucking peen. Let's see it.
Let's go beyond the gentle outline. Let's really. Let's go for it, everybody. And also,
that I think is nice.
No, I think that's nice. And also, I don't think it's coincidental that this is sort of something we're talking about, because we have a celebrity president who comments on media and entertainment constantly.
Yeah.
It's not like this is an area that's unimportant to him, right? The president is celebrating the firing of Colbert. So, this is not a space that he's ignoring. It's a space he's very aware of and hypercritical of. And I think there's a natural and unfortunate tendency to think, as a studio system, okay, how do we not piss this guy off?
Exactly. I was just thinking that. I was like, this is exactly tied with politics. And I think it probably, and to your point earlier about it being within the 2 years ago that this was happening, is is I'm also lost in time, but like the whole Kid Rock shooting Bud Light thing with and all that. It's like, whether it's a corporation or it's a big Hollywood house or whatever it is, production house, they're all investing a ton of money into something. And then after they've put all that money in and put it out on the market, if everyone decides that they hate it, they've just lost a ton of money. So Hollywood and these corporations are nothing if not risk averse. Yes. And you're absolutely right that I think that someone like Trump and other people who are high profile are just not, even though there are many, many, many of us who would vastly prefer a Hollywood that has more voices and more stories that are not more of the same crap that I've been seeing, and frankly, much of which is reflected in my own life. I would love to see more of that, but we are not the people who are going to go out and fire guns at a can of beer or a movie theater if it's something that upsets us. We're just going to take to blue sky and say, I wish there was more diversity.
Yeah. We're such fucking limp dicks. Yeah. Okay, but can I say one little thing here to maybe end this and get your thoughts? Is it there were some moments when we did see more diversity that felt forced and performative.
So you've seen And Just Like That? Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. And just like, so the first season, and by the way, can I just say I've been deeply following the And Just Like That journey, and I'm on the last episode of this current season, and it's just dramatically improved. I think in part because the first season, they were like, someone's non-binary and someone else is black and this other, and they're bohemian, but then there's a black person who's also rich, and then there's, and they tried too hard, right? And there's like, someone has a disability, blah, blah. It's like, guys, the thing about Sex and the City is that these were rich white women, and my complaint has never been, I remember when Girls came out, after the first couple seasons or whatever, there was a complaint that it's such a white show.
Yeah.
And I, by the way, don't disagree. I also have eyes and could see that it was such a white show. And my complaint wasn't that Girls, which I fucking loved and I hung on every episode. My complaint wasn't that it was a white show, because I knew those people. I fucking went to those parties in Williamsburg. I knew exactly what the fucking entire show was. Right. So that wasn't my complaint, because it felt very true to life. My complaint was, let's have Girls. Let's also have Iranian girls. Like, it doesn't need to be that show. It doesn't need to shoehorn in a bunch of ethnic people to make it okay. It just, let's have other fucking shows. It's not a big deal. Like, or have it be my reflection of New York, which is that, like, my friends each, represent multiple regions of the world, and among us we speak multiple languages. It's like, let's have a version of New York that looks like that. And so the shoehorning felt really inauthentic to me, and I never really loved it.
Well, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, every now and again I make the terrible life mistake of speaking with someone who I vehemently disagree with politically. I have one token conservative friend, and I feel like some of what he said to me, and I haven't spoken to him since Trump was elected because I'm too upset, but I could reach out to him, and some of the stuff he said to me in the past suggests that on the right, and I'm going to speak in generalizations, but on the right, the idea of what they think, not to assume your politics, but they think we think about diversity is exactly that shoehorning, tokenizing thing, where it's like, let's just turn all the people black and call it good and not think about it and just do it to make the woke people happy. Like, no one wants that. Like, we don't want it on the left. We want some, like, authentic, diverse perspectives and experiences. And on the right, I think they would agree that they, insofar as any of them are reasonable, just want stories that people like. And there's no reason those can't be stories from black and brown people. And so I think it's like we're both, neither side is happy in this, like, token shoehorning world,
that's right.
Well, can I just, like, get filmy for a second?
Close us out on this, Danielle.
Story should be rooted in character, and characters should have traits.
This is why I don't tell stories. Okay, never thought of that.
So, I did watch those couple first terribly unfortunate seasons of And Just Like That, and partly what you felt as an audience member, and this would be regardless of your politics, was these aren't characters. They're representations who speak. It's laziness, frankly, it's totally great to have a diversity of perspectives and characters on the show, but you have to believe what those characters do. It has to be consistent with the traits that you've given to them. And that wasn't the case.
No.
Right? Bad storytelling is bad storytelling, no matter what the colors of the people are. And so, what we're really talking about from a storytelling perspective here is like, it's not going to work just because you place a trans person there. They have to have traits and an arc that actually feeds and grows the story. That was not the case.
Right.
No, that makes it, and which is why I say to everyone now, give this current season a chance, because it's like, because they got rid of the forced stuff. I feel like they basically got rid of the forced stuff, and it's so much better. All right, folks, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into some more shit. And we are back, and we're ready for topic number 2. Okay, I should mention that we're taping early this week, so if something else has happened in the news, we'll get to it next week. But first, apparently, there's a new breed of human being in politics. They are in New York City, and they are the people who voted for Trump and for Mamdani. What? Even Mamdani himself pointed out that, quote, in Brighton Beach went for Trump by 44 points. Last week, we went up by 16. This is him doing a post-election analysis. College Point was a plus 11 Trump neighborhood, which Mamdani took by 8 points. Now, these are two people that are ideologically opposed. The Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani, for mayor of New York City, and fucking motherfucking Trump. Can you explain to me how, and we'll start with you, Andrea, because I don't know, there's some data in here.
Yes.
You've classed up our podcast by being a data scientist.
I'm ready to class it up.
Let's do it.
How? Why? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm going to put my data tiara on for a second. And so here's what I think is going on. This is my well actually moment, is that in general, my read on the fall election for Trump is that most Americans don't pay attention to politics, and most Americans, if they do, or if they're voting, it's based on the economy. And Trump, the Harris campaign lost for a lot of reasons. I very much believe that sexism and racism are a big part of the politics in the United States. And Kamala ran a campaign that made her lose by the least amount for any incumbent party around the world, which is to say that she still did better than every other democracy around the world that had an election at that time. All of those democracies are having bad economies. We have bad economies. One of the few things we know in politics, my original degree is in political science, is that a bad economy is bad for the incumbent party. I, as a human, tried to tell myself, well, it's not really an incumbent. Harris is a new person. It's not Biden, blah, blah, blah. And I tried to talk myself out of it, and I was wrong. Mamdani ran on an affordability platform. And so if you are someone who does not pay attention to politics at all, which is most people, and I always have to remind myself of that, then you're just going to say, who's going to make my life cheaper? Who's going to make it so that I can afford? And that's the only tether of reality I can think to vote for that. I guess the secondary one, and this is not based in data, this is speculation, is maybe it's sort of like, I'm just going to vote the rebellious seeming way. Like that could be that person too, who's just like, I'm just going to be a contrarian, and the person who seems to be anti-establishment, anti-status quo, that could be. But in general, I think it's, I'm not paying attention, and he said he's going to make things cheaper, so okay. That's my most generous interpretation.
Right. I mean, by the way, that stat about Kamala, the numbers that she won by, or that she lost by, or whatever, are like pretty sweeping, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it's, we compare, like, because I've been like wrestling with this, and what happened, how could it have happened? You think like, well, if the Democrats had run a white man, then the white man would have won. Well, Biden was in the running, and when Kamala joined the race, her numbers got way, way better. So it's like, we do have something of a comparison. But of course you could argue, well, it may be not an old man. You're like, well, okay, so who then would we,
right.
Would a Pete
and what if it's Pete Buttigieg? Yeah,
right,
and he's gay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, well, he's gay, so that won't work either. So it's, obviously you can't know from just one run of history, which is why we need all these parallel universes that we're living in. But it is, while depressing and horrible, and the country, 2025 has been politically disastrous, Kamala ran a great campaign relative to other relative to other
Democracies.
incumbents around the world. Yeah.
That's really lovely to hear.
I know.
I need
know.
that info.
Yeah.
Because
We
the
should have had
depression
you
is so
on.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, we should have had you on in
Yeah.
fucking November. My God.
It's rare
Okay.
that I have something positive to say, so I'm going to hang my hat on that one. And it comes from a political scientist named Seth Maskett. He told me on my podcast, so...
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah.
Danielle, we both live in New York City, and we both got sort of energized by this Mamdani win.
Correct.
And I should mention to my Jewish friend Danielle that I actually ranked Brad Landers first, the Jewish guy.
Yeah,
I
and
ranked Lander first, too.
and I am the only one on this podcast who had Mamdani in the #1 slot as the
Wow. Wow.
Jew. I just want to.
we were all cross-endorsing.
That's right.
That's right. I was a huge Lander head by the end. But
Oh yeah, I mean he's a really fucking delightful guy as well. Just for the record, okay.
Yeah.
But Danielle, the interesting thing about like places like Brighton Beach that Mamdani talked about in his post-election analysis is that like Brighton Beach has a lot of like Russian immigrants or whatever. Like
Correct.
it's like a kind of, I don't know, what would you call that? Like a maybe working class enclave of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'd say like an immigrant forward working class neighborhood.
Yeah. So I mean, are you surprised by the Venn diagram of kind of like working class immigrants who are voting for Mamdani who are also wooed by Trump?
Initially I was a little surprised, but in the weeks that have followed, what I've been thinking about a lot, and I want to be clear that none of what I'm about to say is based on data of any kind.
Yeah. She does not have a data tiara.
Not even
Okay.
a hat.
We'll get you one later.
Thank you.
Yeah. A Burger King crown of sorts.
Perfection.
Personal data.
Yeah. But what I've been thinking about a lot is I think the political class in general and folks like me and like Negin, I assume as well, who are obsessed with politics, I think we share, frankly, an incorrect fantasy about the average voter, which is that ideology is at the core of their decision making. And it's simply not. Right? So if you read the news obsessively, like I assume the three of us do, if you're looking at this stuff all the time, you're thinking, how could someone vote for these two people? One of them is literally promoting racism. The other one identifies as an anti-racist and is a person of color. That assumes that ideology is driving the game. It's not. Right? And I personally think, all the reasons that Andrea's talking about make sense to me. It's clearly about the economy and affordability. Both of these politicians really were presenting that first and foremost. But I also think there's another component here that wasn't even covered in the article we read, which is that these are two men who understand social media with a depth and clarity that is unique.
I'll give you a tiara for that. That's
Thank you very
good.
much. I'll absolutely take it.
Yep.
If I wasn't a Luddite, I would do something on my computer and it would appear, but I don't know how to do that.
Yep.
But Mamdani is really one of the first candidates I've experienced in my lifetime who not only understands mediums like TikTok, but has been a participant since they were around, right? In the same way that Trump is willing to go on any podcast where two white guys with a boner complain, right? Mamdani's willing to go on the street, go to the Bronx, right, specifically, and say to people, did you vote for Trump? Why? And if I said these things, would you be interested in voting for me? That's using the medium in such a brilliant, organic, lived-in way. And I still think, unfortunately, Ezra Klein talks about this, and I agree with him, the Democratic Party establishment still thinks it's about fucking TV ads. That's basically for
And
another
physical
century.
mailers. I got a lot of physical mailers.
That's not where we're at anymore. So I
Yeah.
think part of it is really shifting our assumption and understanding ideology is not always at the core for voters. But the second thing is understanding that the messaging models have shifted. These are two men who understand them better.
And can I also just add, we talked about podcast bros turning on Trump on last week's episode. And one of the things that I think is interesting is, I can picture the podcast bros who once endorsed Trump, and not that they live in New York City or whatever, some of them might, but, I could picture a Joe Rogan voting for Mamdani. I mean, that's the other funny thing, right? Because they're voting, I hate using this phrasing, but people don't vote on ideology, they vote on vibes. And the vibes are, I'm gonna do something fucking different. And Trump was saying that, even though he's fucking full of shit. And it's most of the electorate could see that he's full of shit, or not most, but a big part of the electorate was like, no, that guy's fucking full of shit. But we all want to believe that something different's gonna come. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we want. In any voting scenario, there is a optimistic hand pulling the lever that says, I want something to change. I want it to improve.
Right. We're like the rats in those studies that pull the levers that have drugs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
There's like rats in a cage, and if you have it so that like cocaine comes out every now and again, if you put the rat with the one that you pull the lever that the cocaine comes out at random, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, they pull the lever forever. Whereas if it never comes, they stop. If it always comes, they stop. But it's the randomness. It's like maybe this flip of the coin, maybe this outside candidate could turn things around for us. So, Negin, I think what you're saying is
that's
we're
right.
rats
We
in a
all
cage.
want cocaine, and that's what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But I think it's and I think if you're the kind of non-ideological voter, and also, by the way, you know, which we read an article, I think it was in the Washington Post, about this Trump-Mamdani voter, and it talked a lot about people who were like registered Republicans,
Yes.
who are planning to vote for Mamdani in the general, or they're registered Democrats who did vote for Trump and voted for Mamdani in the primary. And so you think, oh, they're so ideological. Even still, they're not that ideological, right?
Correct.
And that's what's wild about
Also,
like what we know about voters.
Well, the central promise from these two men, if you look at it, is identical. Things will cost less.
Yeah.
Right?
And will drain some corruption, supposedly, from the various machinations in each city or country. Like Trump is draining the swamp. Mamdani's, you know, and Mamdani's not wrong. You know, there's a ton of corruption in New York politics.
And also to underscore Negin's point, both of these men, one of whom I wish ill on, but both of these.
We'll never say which.
Yeah. Both of these men, whatever you think of them, they are leading with a message which is, everyone says we can't do X. We can.
Yes.
Which is probably what the podcast bros like so much.
Precisely.
Oh my God, they're both running on yes we can.
They are!
Oh.
Fuck. That's the all of politics forever is that
I'm telling you.
goddamn message.
I know.
Okay, let's move on to another aspect of politics, which is way less fucking important and very, very super stupid, which is that Donny Trump Jr., and I don't even know if he's the favored, if he's the eldest boy. If he's the eldest boy, but I don't know if he's the starest boy. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where he is actually in his father's favors. Because I heard Scaramucci talk about Eric recently, like on some podcast,
Ooh.
that Eric was the smartest boy. And I was like, what? Because Eric has a reputation of being the non-smartest boy.
Right.
Correct.
I want to say I don't know any of these fucking boys, so I feel mean saying these words, but I'm just regurgitating.
Sure.
Point is, what I do know that this part of the topic is dumb, which is that Donny Trump Jr. is opening a social club in D.C. I don't know why I thought this was so shocking, but I guess MAGA needs a place to hang out, and the Soho House isn't gonna cut it.
No,
you know,
I guess it won't work. Yeah.
and so they started their own thing, and it just struck me for the first time that there's a social life for MAGA in DC.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? That's all is my question.
I mean, reading it and just the vague, it was a pretty vague description of what it's going to be because it hasn't been fully constructed yet. Even from that vague description, I felt like I could smell the boner pills. Like,
I think it's just in the drinks.
no,
Every
right.
single one comes
Yeah.
with it.
I mean, it sounded, I'm going to say vaguely bilious, frankly, but, you know, but not shocking, right? Because this is a political family where pay to play is the norm. So, yes, do I think that the MAGA folks are actually like in desperate need of a place to hang out? No, it's the White House, right? They're fine. But I do think, you know, Trump Hotel being there, now this entity that everyone knows is Trump, you know, sponsored or whatever you want to call it, it's really about access to power through paying. That's what it is.
Well, it's funny because the Trump Hotel, which I think is changed management now or whatever, is like no
has
longer
it?
his or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But in the first administration, it was like every diplomat would get a room there, whatever. Like it was always
Which
in
is
the
super corrupt in itself.
Yes,
Right.
and now
Right.
they all have a membership at Mar-a-Lago. It's the same thing.
Right. And it's funny because like everyone knew to kind of always to always use the Trump Hotel or whatever, and that was very clear. And it's funny because it was almost like it was a too small a version of corruption. And I think what's really fascinating about this, the second time around, is they've really like broadened their corruption horizons.
That's right.
Yes.
So this social club is called Executive Branch, and this feels a little more like Trump Hotel. I know, so embarrassing. Like I said, this is
like
a very
the
dumb
first thing
subject.
ChatGPT would have suggested, and you'd be like, way too on the nose.
100%
I know.
correct.
So,
first
and it's
time.
weirdly like I think it's in a mall. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so Executive Branch feels like the Trump Hotel of the first administration.
Yeah.
Whereas their expanded horizons is of course their meme coins and stuff like that, because
That's right.
you could be a Saudi prince of some measure and be like, oh, I bought your fucking coin or whatever.
Right.
Here's my receipt. Here's a
Right.
JPEG of me doing it. And like that's how. And now can I get the weapons or whatever the fuck.
Totally.
So so I feel, and that's a way more sophisticated form of corruption because it's much harder to track. It's like and so I think bravo on innovating in that sector.
Yeah. The strategy, again, like Gwyneth.
Yeah.
Really,
I don't know. I'm just sort of like, and also I'm like, are there like, I do would like to be a fly on the wall at the executive branch. I want to see the bigness of the hair, the extensions, the Utah curls. I want to see the tanning makeup on the men.
Oh, for
right.
sure.
Everyone will be orange, and I'm sure they sell a wonderful, date rape teeny that we can all enjoy.
God,
at this
fuck.
thing. But I look. I think it might taste good. It's like bubble gum. You're like, yeah. I too was like, I can't think of a place I want to go less. And what will it take to get in there? Like, I'm having both of those thoughts at the same time. Like, do I need to scrub my social media? Do I need to change my name? Like, how thorough are the background checks? Or if I just dress up like a MAGA, whatever, would that be enough?
By the way, I feel like executive branch would pair well with an episode of Hunting Wives.
Okay.
For what I feel like it is the physical
real.
manifestation of Hunting Wives. All right, let us move on to topic number 3. Let's talk about men. The term heterofatalism seems to be all over the cultural news, and we just looked at a piece from Shadi Hamid in the Washington Post that makes the case that, quote, even men who are professionally successful or otherwise together find themselves frozen by the overwhelming complexity of modern relationship choices. So let me share with you guys some numbers. In the 1970s and 80s, the percentage of men who weren't married by age 40 was in the single digits, but by 2021, that number is 28%. You guys, what is happening to men? And are they struggling to find love?
I mean, they're the real victims. I think we can all just agree. That's why we have to make Hollywood more white and more male.
Yeah, they need to see themselves reflected.
Righting the wrong.
Yeah. All these shows we talked about, girls and just like that. That's a lot of women. That's a
Too
lot of
many.
women.
Too many. Yeah.
Too many.
Sure.
Some would say. Yeah.
But why do you look as a data scientist? Why do you think that number has decreased so dramatic? The number of single men under 40 has increased so dramatically.
I mean, I'm not an economist, but it does call to mind the supply and demand curves, right?
Okay.
So one argument would be that the supply of men on the heterosexual, if it's the heterosexual market, I assume. I don't know if it's.
I think that's what it's
is that the supply has gotten worse and people are less interested. But I would imagine that more compelling, and I don't know the data on this specifically, but is that the demand has decreased, which is to say that a lot of women maybe are realizing that getting married is no longer necessary for the social status or for the job security or the life security or the income. And whether it's because you have your own income or you can have kids without men or whatever else is going on in your life that makes you think, you know what? Being married and doing some dude's laundry for the rest of my life doesn't sound like the way I want to live my life. And since I don't have to, I'm not going to, means that men either have to change their expectations around marriage or, accept the fact that more of us are going to be single. Because it's not a given that you need to be partnered up to have any kind of happy life. And it sounds to me like we hear about this in the context, here is some data, that men seem upset about these numbers and women seem fine. Because if there's all these women who are also not getting married, like where are the polls that are like 28% of women
Right.
are? Well, I don't see anyone bothered by that on the women's side.
I mean, they're actually, I am going to cite some data. I'm very excited.
Please, here we go.
Wow. Okay, data tiara.
Thank you, everybody.
Go.
Amazing.
The data on marriage for men and women, heterosexual marriage, is very clear, which is that all markers for contentment and safety decrease for women in marriage, and they increase for men.
That's right.
So if you're a woman and you marry, your odds of dying violently increase. Mm-hmm. Your odds of describing yourself as not contented increase. Mm-hmm. And the inverse is true for men. So, part of, I think, what we're seeing here, and the fact that the author, who is male, didn't cite that, I noticed. But, I think part of what we're seeing here is that this institution, right, marriage, truly is more harmful to one sex and more beneficial to the other. Mm-hmm. And as, Andrea's right, as women have realized, I actually don't need this necessarily for contentment, for meaning, for financial security, and it's gone down, it's not totally surprising, knowing the data as we do, that for men, this is an extremely disorienting, flummoxing situation, because so much of their social safety and sense of self is actually benefited by this institution that traditionally is harmful to women. So as women ascend and get more rights and more financial capacity and all the great things that we hope for and believe in and want, there's going to be a reorganization here for men. And I think at the moment, I do think, we're seeing this horrible rise of, misogynistic culture online, all of these, men who have gazillions of followers who talk about women as in ways that are hard to even believe are legal in 2025. I think a lot of that comes from this sort of central grievance they feel, which is that this structure that I was taught I could depend on and would benefit me enormously is no longer a given. So it must be women's fault, as opposed to the structure itself needs to change.
Well, and you're right, too, that it's in a distant second, I would say, to physical safety, is that there's also research that shows that, men in the workplace with a wedding ring tend to be taken more seriously.
Correct.
And women in the workplace with a wedding ring tend to be dismissed as not serious about their work. And so even if you think you're physically safe, if you want to advance your job, I am not married, but I have actually contemplated, if I were to get married, if I would wear a ring for that reason.
Yeah, I get that.
I am married and I don't wear one.
There you go.
And I wear the smallest one I could find.
I want to just get one of those clear dental rubber bands. That's what I'm going to wear.
Yeah. That's it. Get that. It's interesting. I mean, one of the things that the article brings up is like that the Me Too movement has scared men into not like hitting on women in public places. And I'll say that.
Do we buy that?
Okay, yeah. This is my question because I feel personally that like there isn't. And this is like I'm someone's grandmother, but like someone's very fucking slutty grandmother. I lament the loss of people hooking up at the bar, right? Sure. And I lament that there isn't more. Like in my day, I used to like really would just walk up to a guy and be like, so what's up? And then 30 minutes later, we'd be making out. It was so easy. And it was a good time. And
Make America great again. Let's say it. Let's just say it.
I mean, the mid 2000s, guys. I fucking excelled, and
the city knows it, Negin. The city knows.
I feel it.
There should be monuments in my name.
I'll put one
but
up.
I do feel like there's something of that kind of like that in person, in real life, hitting on people thing, which I understand could go really awry. I'm not saying it can't. And I was in situations where it did, right? So like I'm very clear-eyed about that. But when it's good, I think it's like healthy, right? Sure. And so I do worry that like there should be some sort of road where both parties can like hit on each other. That's my big policy prescription.
Your mayoral campaign is writing itself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm running on a campaign of people need to hit on each other.
I think Trump voters would vote for that. I actually think that they would. I think you would.
I think they're
doing
it right now as we speak.
The Trump Farsad voter.
That's right. But one of the things that I think about is I did meet my husband on the internet, but I met him in the pre-swipe era. Our love is a pre-swipe love.
Was
it like an OK Cupid?
It was precisely an OK
Oh,
Cupid.
okay.
Okay, gotcha. Amazing,
And I feel seen and thank you. But when I think about swiping, obviously I've never done it, so I don't know it personally, but it feels like a video gamification of intimacy.
Yeah.
That's bad, right? Like love, connection, desire, those are not the same things as sitting at home with an Xbox. But I think something about that swiping hits us a particular place in the brain that is really unfortunate because it feels like there are infinite possibilities and it's an endless exercise. None of that actually creates a sense of urgency.
Kind of like the Netflix, like I'm just going to browse for 3
Precisely.
hours and fall asleep instead of watch a movie. Because
Right, and when I
always
go to a
one
new
more-
city, I'll do it again there.
Yeah.
And, it reduces humans to a photograph and I think like a few words describing them. This is just a broader portrait of this massive problem we're having in the culture at large around many issues, which is that unless some things are done face to face, or at least on OkCupid, we had to answer 20 fucking questions,
That's
right?
And it generated really fabulous data sets.
It did. And, so my husband and I were a 91% match. I don't want to brag.
Wow.
But,
Oh, shit.
thank you so much.
Wow.
But, the more reduced that gets to literally just photos and assumptions, I think you're going to find a less efficient and less fun process.
Well, I think what you're speaking to also, this wouldn't be picked up in this data because these would be, I think, mostly younger people. But in general, the data about Gen Z is that they're not going out nearly as much. So never mind if you're meeting online, you're not even going to the bar in the first place, like swiping or not. And so there's this whole aspect where you're just not socializing. Or if you are, you all have your phones so you don't have to talk to some random person that you have never met while you're waiting for your friends or whatever. Like there's that piece of it.
That's right.
Well, folks, let me know, what do you think is happening with men? Are they struggling, and are you hitting on them? Okay, that is the end of the show, and oh my gosh, what a delightful pair you guys are. I would love for the people of Fake the Nation to be able to follow all of your work. Danielle, where do they do that?
The best place to see my stuff is DanielleDurchslag.com, and on Instagram, I am at @ddurch, which is DDURCH. Check me out.
And Andrea, where do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jones-Rooy, JONESROOY, and jonesroy.com, and then behindthedatashow.com.
Behindthedatashow.com, guys. Like, I love data. And I'm
me
so excited to have discovered this podcast. What a delight.
Totally.
And as for me, folks, as this episode comes out, I believe also, I think the timing is right. I'm not exactly sure, but theoretically my TED Talk, which is really just stand-up, will also be coming out. And it is about this very subject of like boning. So you will find some symmetry there. So, look at my Instagram or whatever. I'll probably be posting about my TED Talk. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone who makes this show a possibility. That's a wonderful Rob Heath. Thanks to Gaby for our theme music. You can reach us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. And you can support the show at patreon.com/Negin Farsad. And otherwise, we'll be back in your earballs next week.